Hello my dear friends, and after yesterday's long drive from Baguio City on the Halsema Highway I can finally say, good morning, from the magical town of Sagada, which is situated at an elevation of approximately 1,500 meters, which works out to around 4,850 feet above the sea level. It took me more than 9 hours of traversing the 9th most dangerous road in the world, from Baguio to Bontoc until I finally arrived here very late last night. I learned that according to the local legend, this town was originally founded by a man called Bayag, who was a 17th century hero remembered today as the most important figure in the history of Sagada. It is said that he was a man from a place called Baika, and that he was leading his people of Baika to the once hidden place here high up in the lush and fertile hills of Sagada, as they were driven away from their established hometown by the headhunters of that time. Nowadays the town of Sagada is an Igorot settlement nestled within the rugged Cordillera Central Mountain Range and has a population of just around 12,000 or so people. It is one of these small towns that comes with its special charm and its idyllic scenery that pulls you in and holds you tight, and it never really lets you go again. Getting from Baguio to Sagada was a whole adventure by itself as I needed to traverse the Halsema Highway, which has been considered as one of the world's most dangerous roads and has been also featured in the international media as such. It is needless to say that this ride was an eventful and adventurous ride with one of the most beautiful scenery and plenty of photo opportunities along its way, and which will stay in my memories forever. Once I finally arrived up here, it was also becoming clear to me why this village has been untouched by the Spanish invaders, and for the many other outsiders for such a long time, as I can clearly see that the town is really high up in the hills and very isolated from the rest of the outside world. As a matter of fact, it is actually so isolated that the Igorots, and the other local indigenous Filipino tribes that thrived here in this region, could hold on to much of their life still based around tribal influences and traditional customs until today. But bear in mind, Sagada with its minimal infrastructure and its remote location, it is surely not the easiest place to visit, but it is well worth making the effort, as the cool mountain air and slow pace of life make Sagada a relaxing break from the heat of the cities and a very worthy alternative to the palm-fringed and busy beaches of the islands. Now don't think that Sagada is a boring village, as it is really offering quite a large number of outdoor activities, such as the Sumaguing and Lumiang caves, which are two of the most famous Sagada tourist spots, boasting eye-popping rock formations and strange patterns reaching deep into the valleys underground. I have been told that there are apparently over 60 known caves located in and around and under the town of Sagada. Please take note that you can only enter the caves with a local tour guide, as with some of the caves there is no way of going back once you are inside. Indeed, I was told that some of these beautiful stalactites and stalagmites adorned caves have come with only one way out. Now if you feel uneasy in tight spaces partially filled with water that can be freezing cold and reaching up to your waists, as well as being deep under the earth, with places full of bat poop, that is not only smelly but also slippery, then it is not recommendable to take this tour, as you will feel like a lost Indiana Jones on a very special mission in the wrong place. There are plenty of other beautiful places you can visit, such as the Bomadoke waterfalls, which is said to be the mother of all falls here in Sagada, and then there is the Marlborough Mountain, the second highest peak that has a breathtaking 360 degrees of unobstructed view of the entire mountain ranges. It is also a great viewpoint of the sunrise and the sea of clouds, in case you are one of these early birds who like to get up in the darkness of the morning hours. And then there is the Lake Danum, where people usually bid goodbye to a great day. It is one of the ideal places to go if you want to be at peace with nature and see the sun setting peacefully in the mountain range. And last but not least, there are the hanging coffins of the Echo Valley with its chilly atmosphere that is even more eerie by the gravestones that are surrounding us. Yes, it is especially the hanging coffins that makes this place for us foreigners a very mysterious village up here in the secluded mountainous area of the Cordillera region, which exudes a totally different feel compared to the rest of the Philippines. Of course, besides the hanging coffins, they also have normal graveyards for the normal people, as we can see here. I also noticed that on some of the double coffins, one side is still empty, and I have been told that the empty side will be filled once the other lifelong partner will pass from this world. So to say, they are planning in advance, which was something new to learn for me. Here up in this village, the placing of the coffins within caves or hanging them on the sides of mountain cliffs is still practiced as of today. It is a culture that has been happening for the past 2,000 years. And to be honored to be buried in a hanging coffin, one must have been a good and honest person. Furthermore, they also must have been married and have grandchildren. But even that was not enough. On top of it, the elderly Igorot people needed to carve the coffins by themselves before they exited our earthly world. As we can see, the hanging coffins of Sagada are attached high up on the limestone cliffs of the Echo Valley by the locals who practice a blend of native religious and Christian beliefs. You will also notice a chair hanging on the cliff near each group of coffins, and that is in accordance with the local custom. As the dead are initially placed in the fetal position on the chair to symbolize the fact that we leave the world in the same way we entered it. And also the traditional beliefs say that the higher up the coffins are, the closer the soul is to God. However, practically, it is believed that this custom also started so as to avoid the bodies being exhumed by the wild animals that are roaming the night here. The hanging coffins are just a 15-minute walk from St. Mary's Church, but also for this you need to join a walking tour to see them. Walking tours in groups or as a single person can be easily organized from your accommodation or from the tourist office located in the middle of Sagada town. For a longer hike through the wonderful scenery that surrounds Sagada, you can join the 3-hour guided walk to the Echo Valley Lookout. This tour will start from the St. Mary's Church and passing the hanging coffins at the Matangkib Cave, a large cavern with an underground river that flows through the Sagada's extensive cave system, and from there you will continue across to the Bakong waterfalls and finally end up at the Echo Point Lookout. The forested valley is abundant with banana trees, coffee plantations, local wildlife, and small farming communities, which is not only a joy for the eyes, but also for your body and soul. Then there is also the Lumiang Burial Cave that extends around 9 stories deep and contains around 100 coffins stacked on top of each other, near to the entrance to the cave. The Lumiang Burial Cave is probably the most visited burial site in Sagada, because this cave is usually bundled with the Sumaguing Cave tour here. Anyway, some of the coffins here are thought to be up to 500 years old. Most of them are made out of hollowed sections of tree trunks. Some are very rudimentary wooden planks nailed together. And I also noticed that the coffins are quite small, and I learned that is because the bodies are placed in the fetal position so the dead would exit life the way they arrived in it, as with the chairs at the hanging coffins. The coffins are at the entrance to the cave to protect them against the elements, but also to get some sunlight, which is thought to protect against the evil spirits. Bear in mind that all the burial grounds and the caves are around a 15-minute walk from the center of the main village. And the wearing of good shoes is mandatory as there are many steep steps up and down to conquer, until you will reach the burial grounds and the entrance of the caves, where the challenging cave connection tour starts, in case you want to explore the inside of the caves too. Now if you are already up here in Sagada, please don't forget to taste their very special coffee, as they not only have a unique coffee culture, but also the climate up here is just perfect for growing the Arabica coffee beans, which was introduced to this region in the late 1900s. The coffee is grown on small farms and in the backyards by the locals, and some trees are over a century old. Some even say that the coffee grown up here is even one of the best coffee in the world. I also learned that the local government requires every household to plant at least 5 Sagada coffee trees, and couples must plant the same number before they getting married. Anyway, whatever the story is, I have to admit that the coffee here at the Daplian coffee shop was indeed outstanding, having a nice bittersweet taste with a very subtle and light floral fruity note, just as a nice coffee has to be. Now just for your info, Sagada also has the deepest cave network in the Philippines, sinking to depths of up to 150 meters or around 500 feet. And one of the most popular ways to experience them is on the Cave Connection Tour, which is certainly an energetic adventure for anyone reasonably fit enough to do so, as it is considered as a no easy walk in the park. The Cave Connection Tour traverses the underground network that links the Lumiang Cave with the Sumaguing Cave. These tours will take up to 3 or 4 hours of your time and involve walking through beautiful rock formations, wading through waist-deep water, rappelling down waterfalls, dangling off ledges and squeezing through tiny openings, so this is really nothing for the faint-hearted person like me. However, here is my 5 cents of advice: don't go during the rainy season, which usually lasts from the early May till the end of October, as there is a high risk of flash flooding. And during these times the caves can be extremely dangerous. If caves are not really your thing, no worries, you can enjoy one of Sagada's many rice terraces, which has its own beautiful giant stairways handcrafted into the mountains, that are made up of rocks piled on top of each other, rather than carved ledges. Many of the terraces around Sagada are now used to grow vegetables, which you'll often see neatly stacked on trucks, that are making their way up the winding mountain tracks and towards the cities. And if you are looking for the best viewpoint, that could be the Kiltapan viewing deck just east of Sagada, which is perfectly positioned for a spectacular sunrise over the terraces. And with this I will end my Sagada adventure and call it a day, and see you back in my next part, where I will drive from Sagada to the city of Vigan. Known for its best preserved Spanish colonial and Asian architecture,